Hello, I'm very honored to be here today with Candace Owens, founder of the Blexit movement, which encourages Black people to embrace conservative values. Candace, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I would like to hear first, because I think many of this audience don't know your story, how you came to be a voice for conservative values.
Yeah, and it's all audiences that haven't really heard my story, which is why I just released my book, Blackout, to really let people know what formed my conservatism. And it's really because I lived a life quite opposite of it. I'm a girl that grew up in poverty. I didn't have, a family that had the means to support me in whatever my ambitions were. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was abusive. And so I kind of went through life having a bit of a victim narrative and believing that the world was happening to me and not that I was happening to the world. Through a series of events, I sort of woke up to the idea that I could be in control of my own destiny, that it wasn't all about poor me and this victim complex, and my entire world changed when I gravitated towards that life philosophy. And so the meaning of the Blexit movement and what I do really comes from the heart, because I know there are so many people that can feel aggrieved because of certain circumstances that they are, unwittingly participant in. So you just kind of don't get to pick your parents, don't get to pick your upbringing, don't get to, pick horrible things that can happen to you. But all of us have a power within us to control the narrative of our own lives once we become adults.
Was there an aha moment for you in there?
When the president began running in 2015, and I was opposed to him, very opposed to President Trump, for the same reasons that many people in America were opposed to him, just feeling like he wasn't well equipped, they didn't have the right decorum, I didn't like the way he spoke, he was too rambunctious. But then I sort of watched the media attack him from a different angle, not because of his lack of preparedness, but because he was a racist or a sexist, and all of these words that are used to elicit immediate responses from people, but that I knew could not have possibly been true about him because he was very much involved in culture, and I was very cultural. I think most Black Americans are, and I was listening to hip hop music, and everybody loved him, and Jay-Z and Beyonce were sipping poolside at Mar-a-Lago, and I just said, whoa, wow, that's a weird label to stick on this guy that has been celebrated for this long, and it kind of forced me to think a little bit. And to wonder if those words are being used to make us single issue voters, right? Because they do always elicit an emotional response. And when you're emotional, you're not rational. And so that was kind of the starting point. And then I just kind of went back and did my homework and started listening to people that I wouldn't normally listen to, right? So I was open. I had opened to myself to at least hearing a different perspective. And then I very quickly realized that I've always kind of been a conservative. I just didn't really realize it. And it brought me to this point.
What are some of the values in conservatism that resonate with you? What were those values?
Hard work, I think, is the number one value. That was instilled in me by my grandfather, who grew up on a sharecropping farm, lived his whole life faithfully, in faith to God and faith to his marriage. He was with my grandmother from the time he was 17 years old until her dying day in 2013. And I recall those moments of my childhood with my grandparents as the happy moments. And the truth is because they were religious. They believed in something bigger than themselves, which removes any form of narcissism. And narcissism is what I was suffering from when I thought the whole world was happening to me and not that I could, author my own destiny. His strength and his ability to not look at the world that he lived in and be bitter about it, but to just accept that it was a different time and to look and say, look at all the progress we've made. So my grandfather never complained, and he just believed in that, in diligence and keeping your family close to you and his faith.
There's a lot of talk on the left about how slavery was such a stain on America, but you have a different take on history.
Yeah, and I agree with them. Slavery was a stain on America, and I actually just spoke about this in my speech, but it was also a stain on the entire world. So the left has a way of looking through the world only through the lens of America. They don't look at the rest of the world. They don't look at the fact that the majority of the empires that ruled this world and were brutish and horrible and immoral and had slaves and imperial lives were not run by white men. And whether you're talking about the Persian Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Muslim Rashidun Caliphate empires, the Chinese Empire, right? All of these empires that existed long before America was ever even an idea, and imperialized and did horrible, horrible things. When rape was normal. I talked about the fact that, you know, even indigenous tribes to America, they cannibalized. And you can look at the Aztec Empire as a great example of that. You know, they reported and they slaughtered hundreds of thousands of people to sacrifice to the gods. So really, the left needs to accept the fact that if you're going to start playing the blame game, we were starting to talk about a different world, you know, an older world, an ancient world, and a medieval world. Nobody's hands are clean. So we need to look at where we are now, not what it takes to get here, because then we're all bad. And that's a horribly bleak assessment of the entire world.
What would you say about the narrative of struggle, the power, oppressor versus oppressed?
I think all of these things are used to turn various groups of people into single issue voters. So I mean, the sexism, right? That sets up the men versus the women, and that really is to make women feel like they're somehow separate and that this should be the only issue that you care about. Racism is used to set up between white versus the black people, and this should be the only issue you care about. And a lot of that, to maintain those narratives, it's a lot of fear mongering. Sometimes people can get so caught in what they're seeing on news headlines and what they're seeing on social media that they stop to take a second and look up and look around them. And if you look up and you look around you in America, this is a wonderful country. It's unlike any country in the world. You know, I've been around. It is a wonderfully diverse country where all different types of people from all different types of background have come together, not because of the way they look, but because of an idea. And that idea is the American dream, that you can start from nothing in your life and you can have something if you're willing to work hard.
You work very hard.
Yes.
Your show comes out quite frequently.
Yeah, I'm on the road 4 days a week, and it takes a lot of sacrifice, but I don't believe that there are any shortcuts, and I'm certainly not expecting any shortcuts because of the color of my skin or because of my gender.
Can you speak to the role of women today and what we can do to help bring this country closer together, because we're at a crossroads. It's very divided.
Right. A lot of that is, I think, largely due that division is due to people that are actually taking away what it means to be a woman. You know, shaming things, certain categories, like being a stay-at-home mom. I don't know who took that idea and made that a form of toxicity and said, no, we need to be competing in the workforce. Sure, we should have the option. We want equality, but to shame people that are doing the toughest job in the world is raising good human beings. Right? When you talk about all of the horrible injustices that happen in the world, you're talking about people that weren't raised right? That weren't raised morally. So I think a lot of what's happened is we've taken away what it actually means to be a woman, and we've weakened it. The narrative surrounding us has gotten really whiny, that we're upset about things that never used to matter. I mean, we were the people that, yes, when the boys were sent to war, we had to run the country. Think about World War II, right? We had to step up in the plate and be both mom and dad. And that strength that we exhibited and just a few decades ago is so gone, where people are fighting for things that are not even about equality anymore. We want extra, benefits for being a woman. We've won, right? I mean, there is no systemic sexism or misogyny in America. We've won. We have every opportunity before us, and I think we need to start acting like it. And I think that acting like we won is actually coming from a position of strength, being happy, right? It takes strength to be happy when people are giving you so many excuses to be miserable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's so fundamental, because in a family, I'm a mom. In a family, when the mother is happy, then everyone can be happy. If mom is not happy, no one is happy. And it's hard for me to see how we would build a society with women who are, unhappy or who are stressed. And I admire women who can do that and maintain, the need, balance the needs of the children, and they need a lot.
Right, and there is a symbiotic nature. Our differences, which people are trying to eliminate, are sacred, are special. The differences between men and women, we should be celebrating those differences, right? There's a symbiotic nature, the yin and the yang. You need both. You need the fighters, right? And you need the caretakers. And I worry that symbiosis is being broken down because people are believing that there's something fundamentally wrong about it. When you see that working together and functioning beautifully, you realize that really is how God intended it to be.
And for me, it was a big revelation that in marriage, that I could relax and not be the one in charge and rely on someone who's, in some cases, my husband is a lot stronger and and also he doesn't react as emotionally, and that's I found very
different. And people don't like to acknowledge that. You know, women, we are more emotional than men. We've got different things going on biologically than men have going on, which allows them to not ever go through periods of being emotional. You know. And that then allows them to just go work and nonstop. And that is something that is unique, and those differences, again, should just be celebrated, and we shouldn't be trying to rip at them and say we need them to not exist. We shouldn't be ignoring science, ignoring biology, but also, in the end, neglecting ourselves. I really do believe that the pursuit that we see a lot of women on is a pursuit of unhappiness. And they don't know it because you're so caught up in the moment, and you've got so many women around you telling you this is what we want, this is what we're fighting for, this is what we need to do, and then suddenly you realize, wow, I've been on this pursuit of hating men. I don't have a husband, I don't have kids, because I thought that was woke or the way that it should be. When really, when you look back on your life, the work is not going to matter. The family is, right? So the time spent with family is the best time you can possibly spend. And I think being a mother, I'm not one yet, is one of God's greatest gifts, and the power behind even the miracle of birth is one of God's greatest gifts. And I love that women are different from men, and I fight to protect those differences.
Yeah, and I can say that especially when you're going through that whole birth thing, it is amazing, and you're in a different frame of mind. At least I was completely different, and it's so nice if you can just relax and be protected. And
right, a different kind of strength. Yeah. A different kind of strength that women go through. Men will never experience child labor. Men will never be able to bring a woman, to bring a child, a human being, into this world. And that's so special. So I don't see why we would ever want to strip that away.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, so it's on sale now. It's available for pre-sale. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. It's called Blackout: How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantations. It's a book that really just walks people through really my story, my ideas about what conservatism really is, and why I see so much dark irony and hypocrisy when the left, claims to be preaching for diversity when they don't accept people that we can look different, but they don't accept people that think different, right? And that is the only true diversity. Tackle feminism. I tackle the irony of pretty much all the left's causes, and I hope that people can read that. Don't worry about what side you fall on, but just see if you can take some of it away and say, you know what, I actually do recognize that to be true.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is such an important message, because we need to have a conversation and connect on the values that we can connect. And what you said about hard work and faith, those are so fundamental.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much for taking this time to speak with me. I know you're very busy.
Thank you so much.